Study Session 10. Personality Theory of Carl Rogers. Introduction. The aim of this study session is to expose you to the Carl Rogers school of thought on personality formation. This theory differs from that of Freud in that it states that personality is formed from an attempt by a person to seek balance between him or herself and his or her environment. When you have studied this session, you should be able to explain Rogers' theory of personality and explain the differences between the client-centered school of thought and other personality theories. Rogers' theory of personality. Carl Rogers' theory of personality is a result, open bracket, almost a side effect, of his continuing attempt to study, both theoretically and empirically, a method of psychotherapy called non-directive or client-centered therapy. The method involves the therapist entering into a highly personalized one-on-one relationship with the client. The theory revolves around the self in line with self-actualization, self-maintenance, self-enhancement, and experience, all based on phenomenological field and congruence. The basic principle is the establishment of a self-structure and the experience that one has about him or herself. The concept of a creative and productive human development, as well as the move away from the emphasis on the unconscious, strongly influenced the development of Rogers' theory. His theory was built on close, intimate, and specific observation of man's behavior in a relationship. In other words, observation of the phenomena that occur within a person's relationships with others is important. Rogers' theory of personality grew out of his method of therapy. An overview of this theory suggests that it may, like other theories, be viewed in terms of structural principles, motivational dynamics, and developmental processes. Basically, the structure of personality consists of the organism and the self. As the totality of a person, the organism is of central concern to Rogerian theory, and it is through the continuing maintenance and enhancement of the organism that optimal psychological development and adjustment occur. The motivational dynamics of the Rogerian theory involves the process of actualization, which is basically a motive to enhance the organism, and that of self-actualization, a motive to actualize the self. These motive systems, together with the structural counterpart, may operate in harmony or in conflict. Development depends heavily upon actualization process and moves from the person from infant state of undifferentiated totality through a process of psychological differentiation and eventually integration. For Rogers, personality development is a continuing, lifelong process. Two aspects of the infant are of primary importance in Rogerian theory. The first aspect is the mode of experiencing, which characterizes the infant. From the phenomenological viewpoint, experience involves perception, and perception can be biased or distorted by such factors as values and expectations. The infant has not yet acquired a self-concept or the biasing values associated with it. Therefore, infants are open to experience, and they are also said to have an exclusively internal frame of reference. The second important characteristic of the infant is his motivation system. Rogers postulated that a single motive, the actualization tendency, provides the impetus for all behavior. This tendency exhibits several specific characteristics. 1. It is innate. Every individual is born with the inherent motive to actualize. 2. It is directional. The individual strives to realize only positive capacities, that is, those which maintain and enhance the organism. 3. It drives the organism towards autonomy. The individual strives to internalize control to become relatively independent of the external environment. 4. It strives for growth and differentiation. The infant enters the world as a weak, dependent, undifferentiated totality. It exhibits little or no differential of psychological functions and, of particular importance, no self-concept. Actualization strives to attain the differentiation which will provide the self. There are 3 basic hypotheses put forward to explain Rogers' personality theory. These include 1. Given certain psychological conditions, the individual has the capacity to reorganize his field of perception, including the way he perceives himself. The result of this perceptual reorganization is an altered behavior. In other words, the individual is an active agent in any change regarding the way perception takes place or the way others are perceived. Similarly, the individual is also an active participant in the alteration of personal behavior. 2. Again, behavior is not directly influenced or determined by organic or cultural factors, but primarily, and perhaps only, by the perception of these elements. This means that the crucial element in the determination of behavior is the perceptual field of the individual. And 3. When all the ways in which the individual perceives, all perceptions of the qualities, abilities, impulses, and attitudes of the person, and all perceptions of the person in relation to others, are accepted into the organized conscious concept of the self, then this achievement is accompanied by a feeling of comfort and freedom from tension, which are experienced as psychological adjustments, in brackets, which Rogers referred to as congruence, that is, when the concept of self at least fits together with all the experiences of the organism, close bracket. Rogers' perspective on assessment techniques. Rogers believed that the assessment of an individual's personality must be based on the exploration of the person's feelings and attitudes towards himself and others. It is the client who subjectively interprets experiences and who provides the therapist with valid information about his functioning. Rogers believed that this approach to assessment, as basically person-centered, was a meaningful way of understanding the individual's personality. He used questionnaires and emphatic interviews that assess self-concept. In practice, Rogers utilized a variety of assessment procedures to ascertain the validity and efficacy of his techniques of assessment. Study session summary. In this study session, we discussed the theory of Carl Rogers on personality. The theory revolves around the self in line with self-actualization, self-maintenance, self-enhancement, and experience, all based on phenomenological field on congruence. The basic principle in this theory is the establishment of a self-structure and the experience that one has about him or herself. Rogers postulated that a single motive, the actualization tendency, provides the impetus for all behavior. This tendency exhibits several specific characteristics as noted. 1. It is innate. 2. It is directional. 3. It drives the organism towards autonomy. And 4. It strives for growth and differentiation. End of study session 10. Thank you for listening.